From FingerLakes1.com, I'm Josh Durso, and this is Inside the FLX. Today, our program begins on January 1st of this year. That's when our two guests this hour took their new term on the Board of Supervisors here in Seneca County. Lisa Hochadel, a newly elected at-large representative for the town of Waterloo, and Cindy Lorenzetti, town of Fayette Supervisor, who is elected to her third term. She's laughing right now. Third term for the town of Fayette. Thank you both for coming in today. Obviously, a lot to talk about, a lot to get into, but thank you both for coming in. And I guess what I'd like to start with is just throw it over to you, Lisa, to sort of talk to us a little bit about how you got involved with politics and how you actually wound up here.
I would say it was probably about 7-8 years ago. I did a run for the town board in the town of Waterloo. My first attempt, I cut short by about 20 votes. So I ran again the 2 years later, and I did secure that spot. So I was on the town board for 4 years. I ran for re-election and secured that spot. So I finished up my 5th year, and at which point the town accountant, after 30 plus years, retired. And then Supervisor Gary Westfall came to me and asked me if I would be interested in filling that gap. So I stepped off the town board and stepped into that role as the town accountant. And did that position for about 6 months, at which point Gary Westfall's term was coming up, and he was debating on whether he wanted to run again or not. And he decided to not run, which left open a countywide seat as Don Trout was stepping down from his at-large spot to run for town supervisor. And that's when I decided to throw my hat in the ring. Mm-hmm. And I did, and I was successful. So this is where I am today.
Here you are. So, Cindy, obviously, 3 terms. You're in the middle of your third term now. What was the motivation for you? What was the motivation for doing it again? Because obviously, 4-year terms, it's a grind, it's a long year, but you still want to do it.
I did, and basically for the town of Fayette, because I have a great town board. We have projects. We have a big water project that we are really starting to move forward on, and I kind of wanted to see it through that. Usually at the town level, politics don't come into play as much as they do at the county level. Right. So that's pretty much the reason why. So obviously you're sort of, I would like to get both of your takes on just in general where things stand right now at the county level. Obviously both of you have to represent the county as well as representing the folks in Waterloo and in Fayette. It's a little bit of a balancing act, as Cindy, you know, from dealing with that for years. What are sort of your broad views right now of how the year is going so far?
For me, I'm new on the board, so this is a major learning experience. Everything from A to Z. The procedural of running the meetings is very different for me because the town board, the meetings are much more casual and laid back, whereas the county meetings are much more formalized. Also learning knowing who the players are, becoming familiar with some of the issues that are at hand. And there's a lot of dynamics involved in that county board.
Mm-hmm. Cindy?
She said it so right. So politically correct. There are many dynamics on the county board. We don't work together well. We're divided. I think there's a couple of us Democrats with a group of Republicans that we kind of have a little coalition against the other Republicans, and now it's 12-2. I just hope for the betterment of the county that we can move forward and all work together, but there have been issues for the last 8 years that I have not seen enough progress with, water being one of them, just some of the ways the politics comes into play where it shouldn't, and I'm hoping that we will move forward. I'm having my fingers crossed. It's a tough fight at the county level. How
difficult is it? Sort of, last year Democrats had three members on the board, correct?
Three.
Yeah, three.
Well, there was a time when we had 4.
Right. But even 4, you're still talking about a less than 1/3 total. How difficult does that make actually governing or actually trying to push things that fall into what you guys want to do?
It's very difficult. Again, my experience on the town board, during election time, it's very partisan, but once the board comes together and starts working, they work together as a group, and partisan comes totally out of the picture. I'm finding that the county board is extremely partisan, and they not necessarily vote to support the issue at hand, but vote whether it's a Republican versus a Democrat issue, and that really took me by surprise, and at times it's very disappointing because I really think we should be looking at the issues and what is best for the county and not political affiliations.
Mm-hmm. Cindy, agree, disagree, feel pretty much similar?
Oh, most definitely. Again, the issue should be what's come into play where there is a group that try to stick together. And, I know that I'm probably going to be crucified for bringing this up, but there is a North-South divide, whether they all want to admit it or not. I think the South is going to totally stand up and say yes. The North is going to deny it. I kind of feel I'm right in the middle, which I am right in the middle, and I do see the North-South divide.
Okay,
and if the South would unite a little bit more, and I would definitely be on board with them if, in fact, the issue that they were trying to pass is the right thing to do. They need to unite, and we could maybe have that North-South be the other way around.
Right. Well, and that's okay. So that was going to be my next question for you guys, and obviously, I'm interested to see what your perspective is, Lisa, on this, because you are new to the board, and maybe you haven't been quite as exposed to this North-South divide. It was obviously heavily talked about during the election cycle, like it always is. It seems to be talked about every year at different times, but at the end of the day, not a whole lot, to Cindy's point, seems to actually move. Why do you think that is, and do you think the North-South divide is as real as people on the outside seem to think it is?
It's definitely real. And I've been here 30 years. I came here as a trooper, and our post assignments were really the 336 line, the north end versus the south end. And the junior person got the south end of the county. I mean, even from that point, So, now I worked out of the Willard Satellite for 3-4 years, and I absolutely loved the south end. I have, still friends down there to this day. I loved working with the people and for the people in the south end of the county. I think it goes way back to when the depot was there, which really divided that county. I mean, it made it a separate entity in itself, because you really couldn't get from one side of the county to the other because of that middle point. Is it getting better? I think it's getting better. All right. I think this incinerator issue has really brought the county together, especially on the north end, who have really stepped up and are supporting the town of Romulus in this situation. But we have a long way to go.
Is there concern, because obviously the incinerator has sort of been a galvanizing force to that end, but I mean, have we not seen this before? We've seen this. Everyone comes together for an issue or for a very short amount of time, and then it's right back to square one after, right?
Well, can I tag in on that?
Sure.
Because to me, that was an issue that was a no-brainer.
Right.
It should have not taken us as long to come out and support that we were in opposition to an incinerator. That is exactly what I'm talking about. There are issues that we all should be united on, and that to me was pretty simple, and we had to play around with it. It took a few meetings. We had to make sure. And then we had a supervisor that basically stepped up and said, that we're all against business coming in and we shouldn't oppose it. And, that was ridiculous. Totally. Mm-hmm. That was such a grandstanding, but that was such a stupid remark to make. And this is the part that frustrates me, is like things that for the whole county that is black and white. Figure it out, folks, and vote the right way. And don't make it take 3 months to be able to make a statement. When all the other counties and all the other towns, and we sat back on our haunches, I'm not sure, I don't know if it's the right thing. Crazy.
Just stop making it so complicated, right?
Make it, you know what's right, you know what's wrong. In life, sometimes there isn't always gray. And when it's black and white, vote it up and move on.
So another one of these, I want to call it a north-south issue, but obviously this whole debate and discussion around Del Lago Resort and Casino, it may not have any real effect to the north-south divide, but it seems like this is going to be one of those issues, or it could be one of those issues where the north supervisors feel one way and the south supervisors feel another. I want to get both of your opinions on where this stands right now and what your feelings are toward the way it's been handled, not just locally but also at the state level.
That's a hot topic.
It sure is, and that's why we're talking about it.
That's a hot topic. Exactly. That's like a hot tamale right now. Overall, do I think that Del Lago is in jeopardy of closing their doors? Absolutely not.
Right.
Okay. And I think we should be supportive of their endeavors and their concerns. I really think that we should stay neutral on the issue, though.
Right.
I really believe that. I believe it's from, and I know part of their issue is the Indians who are not paying their fair share. But that again, that comes from that local area to pressure, and as well as the state support to ensure that they're on a better playing field. Again, I last I heard, the governor is saying no to the Del Lago. And again, I think that's on a state level. The state representatives need to step up and make those decisions, and I think we really need to stay neutral on it.
Go ahead, Sydney.
I know that's a political scapegoat, isn't
right
it?
onto that.
Ran right through it, right? I've done this for so long. Okay, so I agree a little point with Lisa that we have to remain neutral, but as far as the north-south issue going, this is where we need to be united, the north and the south. And Del Lago has come into our county, and they've created many jobs. They're hopefully going to spur a lot of economic development along 318, which is what we desperately need. Do I believe in corporate bailouts or corporate welfare? No, not by any means. But I will say, I do trust Senator Pam Helming and Brian Kolb. I'm sure they're going to get our points across to the governor. Now, the state level with the governors, starting with Mario Cuomo and right now down to his son Andrew, this needs to be addressed. It needs to be a level playing field, not only for casinos, but we're talking gas and cigarettes. I can't even tell you, I guess if I was more a number person, I could say how much the state has lost over the many years of taxing cigarettes. I mean, we're talking millions. And it's gone on way too long, and the governor needs to realize this, and he needs to step up to the plate and tell the Indians, you've had it for way too long, and the time has come where it's done.
Doesn't this sort of come back to what I seem to hear the supervisors as a whole say over and over again? New York State, please do your job. Please make our job a little bit easier, whether it's through the Medicaid cost or whatever the case may be, the unfunded mandates, as they like to call them. It seems like you guys are just constantly fighting an uphill battle. How do you stay energized? How do you even continue to have a desire to make a difference when you're staring at the stick in the mud called Albany?
Yeah.
I think we just need to really focus on the local issues that we have a direct impact on.
Right.
And there is a lot of local issues that we have that, and I think that's what our focus needs to be on, instead of being frustrated with the things that we can't control, like the state mandates with Medicaid. And we know that those are standard budget items, and we really just have to work around those numbers and really focus on the most bang for our buck in our programs and our projects that we're looking to get done in this county.
So one of the items that changed this year in January, or I should say probably February was when the change actually happened, committee structure shakeup.
Oh my Lord.
The aim was to make it easier or quicker to move through committee meetings, right?
Yeah.
Has it worked?
Yes.
Has it been effective in correcting that part of it? Obviously, only a couple committee meetings since, but
Only, one or two.
do you feel it's been working? Obviously, there were concerns, and judging from that reaction when I mentioned that, but from both of you, there were obvious concerns about it and sort of crumpling up who has power, just reducing the number of people who actually have authority on the board to push agenda items. Beyond that, though, has it actually benefited the county in any way? Because as I recall, I'm not so sure that the last committee meeting was much shorter than
Not at all.
an
You
ordinary.
want me to answer that?
Go for it.
Oh,
Both.
yeah. So-
I'm gonna get both of your opinions
Yeah,
on it. So.
yeah. So no, not at all. But it's something that was brought up time and time again. So when we met, I voted, yeah, okay, let's try it, because it's been crammed down our throats. I can't even tell you how many times now, and it's like, okay, I'm all about trying a pilot program. Now, did I want that to happen? No, because what it actually did do is take power away from some of the board members, because you only have like a certain amount of people now that are chairman. So yeah, that's definitely a fact. I don't think the time is going to be any less. We still have the same issues, and we still have the same concerns. One way things could go a little smoother and easier is if we're presented information before the meetings, or we get more presentations. I know I feel frustrated because when I ask a question, I never seem to get a basic answer to my question. And there's many times that I felt very uncomfortable, and if I don't understand it, just as the project of the renovation of the county office building, I took the tour and I just ask questions and I don't seem to get concrete answers, and I'm not going to place a vote if I'm not so sure what is exactly in store and how much it's going to cost the taxpayers.
You agree, Lisa?
I do agree. And again, I was the new kid on the block.
Right.
I thought there was a lot of politics involved in committee selections. That was a little tough to swallow. But I think at the end of the day, it worked out the way it needed to work out. I do agree with Cindy when she says that a lot of times we come to these meetings and we have the agendas ahead of time. However, there's always added, and I understand that sometimes that happens, but there seems to be a repeat behavior where we get additional resolutions and agenda items at that meeting and expected to take action right then and there without even any time to really do some thought and some research and consideration on it. And I'm not quite sure if there's an agenda behind that or not. So I have some concerns about that.
Is the solution to that then just not having new information introduced after the agenda is set, in your estimation? Or is there something else that, or just killing the possibility of there being a vote on particular matters if you're going to introduce new information to something?
Well, I think new information, if the supervisors don't feel comfortable, isn't going to go forward.
Right.
But again, I just think presentation, communication, and sometimes it's very boggled. And again, when you ask a specific question, you don't always get the answer that you're looking for, or the answer is like a 10-minute dissertation and you're like, I can't even tell if the answer was in it.
Right.
So that is my most frustrating thought.
So one of the other items that received a ton of debate at the last, I'd say 2 or 3 sessions, is the possibility of overhauling the county office building and moving mental health. Obviously, mental health is something that pretty much everyone on the board seems to agree needs to happen. It's the other parts of the larger plan that seem to be drawing a lot of criticism, not just from the Democrats on the board, but from Republicans too. So this is one of those issues that seems to be crossing party lines. Your thoughts on why it seems to be doing that, or what your feelings are on the project overall, if you're willing to go that far? Because one of the concerns has been, right, that there hasn't been enough information, there hasn't been enough of an explanation about what is actually going to be happening, right?
I agree. I think the information we have is very, very generalized. There isn't any details. I opted out of taking the tour because, again, I've been given, and the only information I have from that project was received from another county supervisor. It was not received directly to me from the county manager. So if, again, that would have been on me to obtain that information. Unfortunately, he emailed me the plan. The plan is extremely, extremely vague, and for this next phase, spending $2 million without a whole heck of a lot of details, I think is not wise. It's not wise spending. And again, there's been no answer to how we're paying for this. The county manager has indicated he's not going to raise taxes and put this burden on the taxpayers. So if that's the case, how are we going to pay for this? Our sales tax revenue is not performing exceptional right now. We do have some concerns with Del Lago and where their financial situation is. I just think that we're quick to spend money that we don't even have, or before it burns a hole in our pocket. Does mental health need to get in that building? Yes, it does. And I think our focus should be getting on them situated and into that larger accommodations, and the rest of it should be tabled for further discussion and more involvement. You've got 3 new members on that board who do not know anything about this project, and I really think it's a disservice to the county and disservice to us new members that we really are not getting the answers that we want.
I agree. I did take the tour, and I'm glad that I did, because all the plans where he wanted to move people, I don't think need to take place at this point. I think E911 is they have a very efficient spot where they are. I do believe that there has to be some cosmetics done to the county office building, some new rugs here, some paint there. But the overall project, I think we should focus on getting mental health moved. I don't think mental health should have to wait until we all agree on passing the PER for the whole overall picture. I think, no, just move them, find out how much it's going to cost to put them wherever. And the other point is that I'd like studied farther is they were originally going to go into the HSS building. There were supervisors, myself one of them, that had concerns about mental health going where there was going to be a daycare. Now I'm not so sure that Del Lago is going to have that space for daycare. I know they have a contract, they're leasing it for a couple more years, but I think maybe the county needs to look, is it better to move mental health over to that building, or are we going to put it where Office of the Aging is? As far as anything else goes, it should be put on hold, because I agree with Lisa. We just need to do what we need to do, get them moved, and then sit back and take a couple deep breaths before we do any other projects in the county office building.
Okay, so one of the follow-ups that we've been hearing and seeing on social constantly is this perceived notion that this is just a matter between the board and the county manager, and that it's personality driven. Now, some folks are going to look back and say Seneca County has a bad track record with county managers, but there seems to be some legitimate points here that I think it would be important for you guys to sort of talk about. Cindy, especially with your history on the board, walk us through why you don't think this is the case, and why it is important for people to understand that each of these situations is being evaluated on its own. This isn't a long-term trend. It's not like you guys have it in for the county manager or anyone else. This is just you guys evaluating issue by issue, right?
Correct. Geez, I don't know how to answer this. We're always brought information from the county manager like, this has to happen, the sky's falling, you need to vote on it, or we're being, I don't want to say held hostage, but it's the best way I can figure it, like vote for this plan, or mental health's going to have to stay over where they are. Well, that's not true, because he's not the one making the decisions. It's the 14 members of the board. So we need to direct him of what we want done. And I think the sentiment of the board, and I hope I'm seeing everybody correctly, is they understand that mental health has to move. They should not have to stay there. But right now, county manager, with your grand scheme of things, we need to tone it back, and we just need to move mental health. And then in the future, possibly look at other renovations, but not for now. And I think Lisa, I want to say I'm happy to have Lisa on the board because she has her accounting and financial experience, and I look really forward to her looking at the pictures and the financials and bringing us back the information. So I'm very happy for that.
Now, Lisa, I would really love to get your perspective on this because you're new to the board. You probably have not been seeing those issues going back 4, 6, 7, 8 years as closely as you are now. Your thoughts on this sort of dynamic between the county manager and the board, and also how much of this is just on the board to make more decisions, because it seems like the easiest way to trump any sort of hard feeling or lack of path for the county manager is for the Board of Supervisors to just start making more decisions.
Tough question. You have a lot of very strong personalities that you're working with. The county manager is a very intelligent man. Very strong personality. You have a lot of county board supervisors, very strong personality. So I think at times there's a lot of power struggles going on. I think a lot of times it becomes personal, and I don't think it's personal. I really don't. From my observations, it comes down to people really wanting to do what's right for this county, and I think sometimes we as people forget that, and all of us supervisors are Seneca County residents. We have a very strong vested interest in the people of this county. We've all lived here a very, very long time. The county manager is a new resident to this county, and I just don't think he has that real, I don't want to call it a loyalty, but that real devotion to the people of this county at this point. And it will come in time. I would hope it comes in time, but I think that's what drives most of us supervisors, is to try to really do what's right for the people here. And the county manager thinks in a different perspective. I think he looks at it from projects and numbers, and not really what's the necessarily best for the people, because the people in this county cannot afford a $6, $7, $8, $9, $10 million renovation project. They can't. Right. I'm a CPA in my real life, and so I do. This is my real busy time of the year, and I have a lot of people in and out of my office with doing their tax returns, and people struggle in this county to make ends meet. They really truly do. And to put additional burdens on them and their finances, I don't think that's, I have concerns about that. I truly do. And I hope at some point the rest of the board sees that, as well as the county manager sees that.
So my last question for you guys, looking at the crystal ball, looking into the crystal ball, I should say, 2-4 years from now, what do you see Seneca County? Obviously, both of you are in the start of new terms. So what is your vision, or what do you think will Seneca County look like 2-4 years from now?
I see, as far as development on the north end, especially along the 318 corridor and 414 corridors, I see that as soon as the sewer project is done, I see major... to see that within the next 2 years, that's hard, because that kind of development takes more than 2 years. But I see that ripe for the taking, and I really see that just blowing up. I truly hope that the incinerator never comes, and I be vocal about where I stand on that project. And again, I want to see some improvements on our water sewer projects. To become a little bit more less disagreeable and hostile, and more, let's get on the right playing field and get this done, what we need to get done with those projects.
Cindy?
Very good answer. Actually, I'm fingers crossed the county's going to move forward. I think we need to concentrate on 318, but I also then want to bring it down to the south end. And I think we need to get infrastructure down that way with water and sewer, because if you get the infrastructure in, you'll get the development. We're up and coming. The tourism, the wine, the breweries, we can only improve if, in fact, we all vote and do the right thing for this county.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you guys coming in. Obviously, busy schedules, busy time, obviously, tax season, governing season, all that good stuff. We'll be having you back in to talk about all of these things as they continue to develop. But thanks for coming in today.
All right. Thank you very much,
And
Josh.
I just want to also thank you guys because you do a great job. Your podcasts, I love them, and the way you get the news and the information to the people is very much appreciated.
Very much so.
Well, we appreciate hearing that, too.
Yeah.
Well, that is going to do it for us today. I'd like to thank Supervisor Lorenzetti, Supervisor Hochadel, and our listeners. Inside the FLX airs Sundays at 7 p.m. on Spectrum, Channel 1304, and is available on iTunes, Stitcher, and the FingerLakes1.com app. Until next time, stay informed and stay tuned.